G'day. Today we're doing a little repair on a starter motor out of a tractor. It's out of an old Ford tractor, probably 50 years old. Now the problem I've come into, it's blown out the little end of the cap there that holds a spring that returns that plunger. And I've tried to find another solenoid everywhere. Here in Australia I can't find it. It's a Delco Remy starter motor. Also what's happened, it's worn right out. Looks like someone's flipped it around at some stage. That's where the little plunger works. What I'm actually going to do, starters, I've threaded a little thread in there. And I've just machined this little plug that I'm going to just thread into there. And that should contain the spring there now. You can see the spring will sit in there now, instead of that bit that's been broken out. Contacts, I've got to unsolder one of them, and you can see that one's pretty well buggered. So what I've also done is I've machined these little copper plugs, and I'm going to silver solder those onto these. I found a couple of 3/8 bolts. And I'm just going to silver solder that onto the end of that, and then we can use them instead of the ones that were in it. Okay, first we've got the flux. Sort of good to scratch it in there a bit. Just make sure it gets nice and in there. And the same on the bolt. And I'm doing it with silver solder because it's got a higher melting point than just normal solder. So you don't want this to come off if it overheats in the starter motor. Gonna really rub it in there. I'm just sort of heating around it first, especially this little plate that I've got it sitting on. And usually when that flux just starts to bubble and melt, you know that's when it's reached temperature. And a little dab of this silver solder. Oh, still hasn't reached the right temperature. There it goes. You can see once it reaches the right temperature, that solder just flows into all the little spaces on its own. Trying to get that big glob out of the way. But I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's flowed all the way around. Running out of gas as well, so the flame might not be hot enough. And I've got a bit of a breeze coming through from the back door. This one went on a lot easier. What I actually did, I squashed a bit of the silver solder and put a couple of flecks underneath it, and it seemed to have been a lot better. But I probably made that little step too tight. What happened when the flux starts to bubble, it actually pushes the bolt out. You can see that, I don't know if you can see the silver solder, it's flowed right around. This one's a much neater one. You can see the silver solder's flowed right around. Okay, I've buffed them up on the wire brush a bit. You can see how it's flowed right around nicely like that. And the other one was that rougher one that I did. I just ground a bit of those two little bumps off it, but the solder's gone, the silver solder's gone right around anyway. There we go, like new. And you can see that's how they're going to sit. And that's how that works. It's going to be applied to that. You can see the original one, the head was a little bit smaller. And you can see that it only sort of wears down on one spot anyway. Now if this is made up too big, I can just machine a bit of that off, just make it a little bit thinner. You can see I've sort of gone a little bit overhead with it, or overboard. But we'll find out when we put it back together. Now this one here I've got to unsolder. Actually sits under there like that. When the solenoid's working, it's actually hitting up against it there. By just looking at that, we can see that it's probably, I've made these way too thick. I'm going to machine it down a little bit. Now I've just temporarily put it back together, and what I've done, I've tested it with an ohm meter just to make sure that these aren't too wide, and completing a contact between those two all the time. It should only happen when the solenoid is applied. Okay, looks okay. I had to machine probably about 50 thou off each one, just trial and error. And I've actually moved, just flipped that over as well, so it's like a new one now. Now I can unbolt this one, and we need to solder it onto there. And I've just quickly pre-soldered the wire and down here, so when I put it back I can just heat it up and it'll just fuse together. A little bit of Solastic there, and I'm going to put some Solastic around that just so no moisture or water or rain can enter there. And also on this terminal here, or this contact, I'm going to put a bit of Solastic, just bolt it all back together. There we go, Solastic everywhere, nice and messy. Elastic on that plug I made for the spring, and I also made a little screwdriver slot in there. all back together. Got the negative on earth, positive over here, and I'm just going to use the back end of a punch just so I don't wreck a screwdriver. Probably need a bigger battery. But it's definitely working. And with the battery hooked on, it's not heating up, which is a good thing. There you go. Just got to put these caps back in and put the little lock nut on that little bolt that goes in there. Bob's your uncle. There you go. It is possible to repair these solenoids as well. Thank you for watching.